Cool. Well, thanks everyone for coming today. Yeah, let's maybe just get started with quick reports. John, you're the one on my big screen right now. Do you want to start?
Yeah, fair enough. Been doing a little bit of work helping Devin out there, trying to get all the tests to pass there for the static. I'm down to there are 3 tests on IP and 1 test on DC to finish, and then should be good to go.
So you said 3 on IP and 1 on DC?
Yeah, they're all with the check derivative. I think it's just got something to do with how DASCs take the array. Yeah, I think that was kind of the problem with most of the tests that were failing before. But yeah, I just got to dig a little bit deeper. We have a little bit more time. This weekend I should have, or next few days I should have some more time and figure that out.
Okay. Excellent. Is there anything that you want like another set of eyes on, or not quite yet?
Let me. I was gonna have another go tonight. I will push something, or I'll just post something to somebody, or I'll just post something, or on Slack or something about if I need someone to look at it, because yeah, the check derivative stuff is kind of in discretize, I guess.
Yes. So the check derivative function is in discretize. Yeah.
Yeah, so those are the ones that are failing right now, or just those. Yeah.
Okay.
As in that function is failing, or the derivatives are not passing the derivative test?
They're not passing the derivative test, sorry. Yeah. Oh, Joe's gone? Oh no, there you are.
Oh, he's still yeah, with so many people, it's the Zoom window kind of scrolls everyone over.
So yeah, I just have to see what on that side, because it just says fail. It doesn't tell me like why problems are. So I just have to dig a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's with like, it's just a transpose somewhere here or there is often what that one is. So
yeah. Some of the major other problems that were with the test was just that it was using like a single source on the DC, but if you had multiple sources, it worked.
Oh, strange. Okay.
Yeah, but I just found a way to just check if it's a 1-by matrix. It just has a DAS, just the way the DAS formed the matrix was, or the shape. That's what was causing the problem.
Okay. And we're still, this is like new tests, not like, I mean, because we now have sort of the added functionality that we're storing the sensitivity in some cases with DASC and such, right?
Yeah.
But is DASC like used by default, or?
It is used by default for the fields.
Okay.
But I have that, all that stuff is passing. Right now it is just for when we store J.
Okay.
And then you want to use JVec or something like that. So it was just how it was structured, I think, that was mostly the big problem.
Okay. Cool. Sounds good. Thanks, Joe. Joe, do you want to?
Sure. So I've just been kind of going through, been working with Doug and going through the notebooks for the Geoscientists Without Borders project. Went through some stuff. I'm sure you guys are working on that. And then I've been trying to clean up and tackle some of these bugs in the simulation branch that I don't think anyone else is looking at just yet. So like some of the things that was causing the flow tests to fail, a few other things, and then trying to get a start on updating some of the documentation, like all the doc tests and stuff. Going through there.
Excellent.
So, yeah, that's all I got right now.
Okay, cool. Thibaut, do you have any?
Just yesterday, we finally released the SimPEG 0.13 on PyPy. It was still on 0.12, but Conda is still at the 0.12 versions. And I just checked like a few minutes ago, and it doesn't seem that it's updated automatically from PyPy. So I don't know how we can do that on Conda, but.
Yeah, so there was a pull request automatically generated. You just need to double check and merge it. This is just the first time I've done that, so we haven't updated it yet. I'm working on adding Joe throughout to all of our Conda Forge packages. And Thibaut, actually, since you have the PyPy rights, would you be interested in joining that as well?
Sure. Yeah. So like we can do the whole thing. So basically, it's basically working with email. So like when there is a PR generated, it sends you an email and you access to a certain page. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and so there's a PR generated, and we can walk through this with the SimPEG one. Maybe I'll just ping both you and Joe, and we can just take a look at the SimPEG one, maybe even just right after the meeting, and just kind of quickly go through that. Yeah, because then it's basically like once you're added, you have rights to merge the pull request. And the only thing you should have to do, or the only manual thing you should have to do is update if there's any dependency changes. So.
Okay.
Cool. Devin.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey, Dev. How you doing?
A little tired. It's 6 a.m. here, but that's not crazy early. And finishing up Taiwan today, and we go to Japan. So it's been busy.
Whoa.
That changes that.
You look just the same as you did when you left here. So maybe life is okay.
Oh, it's not bad. There's always something to eat. Food is,
That's good.
food
That's
is
good.
everywhere. Yeah, but mostly, I guess what I've been working on. I think you saw that I made the 2D forward simulation available for the Myanmar notebooks, and I think I'm just following what you have been working on. It looks like John has been continuing to look at those tests to make sure that Travis passes. So that's wonderful. It looks like you guys are working on all the stuff that I was hoping you would be working on. The only thing maybe that I'll bring up is that when I was doing the 2.5D forward simulation, I noticed that you could only define the receivers to measure the voltage. So you could put in a keyword argument to tell it to make your data apparent resistivity or apparent conductivity, but that would fail in the forward simulation. So you'll notice in that notebook that I provided that I actually compute the data as a voltage, then use the survey to go get the geometric factor and convert it into apparent resistivity before I plot. And I do that after I run the simulation. So there's some kind of bug in there where you can't directly define the receivers to measure apparent resistivity. So that's something that I think needs to be fixed. But that's more or less it. Yeah.
Thanks, Devin. There's a running issue that I'll just drop the link in the notes here for stuff that's coming up with respect to the GWB project. And I just dropped it in the chat. Would you mind just adding that as like a to-do item on there?
Sure. I think I made an issue, but I could add it there as well.
Or just
it should be documented, but
yeah, either way. As long as it's if you could maybe even just reference it within that issue, just so that like it's kind of one place where we're tracking everything for the groundwater project.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, I'll try and find it. I'll see where I put it.
Okay, thanks, Dev.
Yeah, no problem.
Cool. I saw Soggy on there.
Hi. Well, nothing really particular in mind. I'm still stuck in Stanford and working for other things. Yeah, nothing particular on my end.
Fair enough.
I guess who is working on, I guess, finalizing the potential fields simulation branch? Is that also kind of is there movement on that?
I don't think Dom is on the meeting today, but I imagine that he's the one sort of pushing on that. Yeah, so we can maybe just ping him on Slack and ask for a quick update if you like.
When I talked to Dom, oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Oh, when I talked to Dom, I think it was Friday, he said he was going to try get to the potential field stuff on the weekend. If he did, I haven't talked to him since, but he said he was planning to look at it for sure. Push.
Okay, yeah. I took a stab at trying to get some of those tests to pass. I can't remember how many I was able to fix, and then we have full tutorials for that as well. So that's actually pretty close.
Excellent. Cool. Colton, would you mind introducing yourself to everyone here? And if you have questions or comments or things you'd like to bring up, feel free to.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Colton Conkey. I'm one of Yago's PhD students over at CSM. I deal mainly in electromagnetics. And I'm joined today by Andrea Dar, who is also with Yago.
Hi, everyone. Hi. I'm also, so I'm Andrea Dar. I'm a PhD student also working with Yago with a focus in electromagnetics, for those of you who have not met me.
Yeah, so currently I've just been playing with the time domain EM code in SimPEG and seeing all the cool things that it can do.
Excellent. Are there any questions or things that you both are hoping to get out of the meeting today?
Not really. Thought we should finally join it because we've been using SimPEG for a little bit now.
I do have a plan to start introducing anisotropy into the 1D MT case in SimPEG, like we discussed when Lindsay visited mines earlier last semester. But that will be after my first comps.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, thanks both for coming, and feel free to jump in if you guys have questions along the way. But I'm glad you're here.
Glad to be here.
Yes.
Cool. How about we go to Ren, Max, and Doug, whatever order you would like to go in.
I guess we're kind of continuing to work on the various notebooks. We have a case history that has been put together. It was one of the vertical electric soundings that we got from the DRD, and that has now been put into a case history. And what we're trying to do is to get some kind of uptake from the TOT, the trainer of trainers, in Myanmar. So we've contacted them by email, but we have not been very successful in getting them to interact. Our goal is to not only have them read what we have for a case history, but also try to, contribute some background information. So whether they're just not used to open source resources or what the stumbling block is, we don't know. But Ren and Max and I are kind of converging here today, trying to figure out how we might try to get a bit more interaction with them. And then in addition to that, so building on a combination of what Sagi has done for forward simulation and inversion, and what Devin has done with respect to using SimPEG algorithms to kind of put together notebooks. Been working with Joe, kind of stepping through, and Joe's been kind of cleaning things up and merging what Devin had, what Sagi had, and what he's kind of coming up with, just to try to make the notebooks look a little bit more friendlier and to test drive to make sure they're working. So that's kind of where we are right at this point. Yeah, just sort of working through. We don't see any particular stumbling blocks, but there's a lot of things that need to be tested because, yeah, we'll be leaving in a couple of weeks, so need to make sure everything is ready.
That's good.
It's a good summary.
Okay, I'll go next here. So just so everybody knows, I introduced Doug and Ren to Grounds for Coffee Cinnamon Buns today, for those that know UBC or know Vancouver. So we're pumped up on sugar.
Wonderful.
A couple of things. I sent an email around to quite a few people. Lindsay was on it, Joe was on the email. I've put 2 data sets up. which are from Indonesia. It's unfortunately not a confined aquifer the way we were hoping it would be, but it's a data set. There's varying numbers of electrodes in it. And I put both versions up, both the DAT version that would normally go into Res2D-Inv, as well as the bin files that you can use and process if you need to print anything out or transfer anything for a UBC format. Let me know if you need anything else in that, because I could dump the data in a different format if you need. There is a UBC format, isn't it? And it's also got integral topography data, which, for instance, in the DAT file is at the end of the file if you're trying to put in elevation. I don't know what the plan is for using that data, but I will also put up, I have to extract from the report a few things for you so that you can see what the interpretation was, plus there's some borehole information too. And I'll try to do that tomorrow. And I think that's it for the 2D. If I can head in a slightly different direction, talking with Devin, we're running into the glitches with the visas right now. And I checked, it looks like we have to send our passports to Ottawa. But when I was talking to the embassy in Ottawa, they said that, of course, Devin, you could do it in Taipei, but now I hear you're going to Japan, so.
Yeah. I leave in like 8 hours or something.
So I can provide you with all the paperwork, all the files that you would need to go in there, and we just have to advise the ministry in. I think we just have to advise the ministry in Myanmar to that just basically to send their permission. Now, or where are you? Are you going to be in Tokyo or somewhere like that?
No, actually. So Okinawa for something like 8 days, and then Kyoto, and then I go back to Okinawa, and then to Taipei. Because that's where the flight to Myanmar is going.
Right.
I'm actually bouncing around a lot.
How long are you in Taipei when you go back?
I think only about 24, 36 hours. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. One of the things I considered was just doing the tourist visa and just meeting up with you guys.
That might be the alternative.
I think,
yeah.
And that can be processed, I think, within 3 business days. So my last visa application was rejected. I contacted them and said, I don't know where I'm staying yet. I'm part of a visiting group from a university. That's basically all I said. But they get on it pretty quickly. They look at it quite quickly. So I could do that.
I think that's a good move. We did an tourist visa. It was very seamless.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and you could use the KS Hotel as your address there if you want to.
The KS Hotel.
Yeah. So
now, are we actually booked? Because I guess if I was somebody in charge of, the security of my country, I may actually call the hotel to see if they are in fact staying there.
Yeah. So we're booked, and your name is even on the room.
That's awesome. So so I should be able to do that.
Okay. And your first night, actually, I don't know where you're going to be on the when you arrive on Friday, but it's probably best you stay in Yangon and then join us in the bus over.
Yeah, I was hoping to just stay wherever you're staying. So I'm pretty mobile, at least, so I can just kind of walk around and do some shopping and meet up with you in the evening.
But we'll
set you up with a hotel in Yangon, because you arrive on Friday, right? We don't arrive till Saturday.
Whatever my itinerary says in the travel, I gotta remember it. I think I show up in the morning and you show up in the evening, or do you show up?
We show up in the morning, and then I think it's 9:50.
Yeah.
And then we will try to catch a bus to Malamine that afternoon. So we're only going to be there in Yangon for a few hours.
Okay. I can find this in about 20 seconds.
Yeah, yours shows you arriving on Friday. And of course, we leave on Friday, but we don't get in until Saturday because of the date change.
I see.
Yep. So, but I can send an email to you with suggestions for the hotel, or even send the hotel or book the hotel for you. And then that'll be a convenient one.
Oh yeah, that would be super easy if you just tell me where to be.
And tell you what to do for your day.
What to eat. All of these.
Might have something to do with a pagoda.
It says I arrive, Friday, January 31st, 9:50 a.m. So I arrive one day before you.
Yeah, you're arriving on the same flight that we are, except we arrive 24 hours later.
Yeah, I see.
We booked through Taipei.
Oh, you also booked through Taipei?
Yep. That's the shortest and best looking flight.
Yeah, it's like the cheapest way to get into that area.
Well, if you want to delay your flight till the next day, you can do that too. Depends on where you want to be for that 24 hours.
I need to go get myself one of those what are the something G, the
Longies.
I got a couple of longies.
Yeah.
Okay, we can tell you where to shop for those too.
The female ones are better, but people will look at you funny. But
people have been looking at me funny for the last 2 weeks.
Okay. So
thanks for for hijacking the meeting there for a bit.
No worries, no worries.
Back to SimPEG.
One question with respect to the data sets that you sent, Max. Is there somebody who's actually championing that right now? I want to make sure that doesn't get sort of like lost in the void of, sending it to 4 different people in an email. So is there somebody who's willing to take that on, sort of champion working that through?
Yeah, and I don't know what the plan was for the data set.
Well, I'm hoping that Joe might be able to take a look at it as he's checking through Sage's 2D notebook.
Yeah, I should be able to look at it. And so the goal with that is to look at a way to import the data, because that's in the file format that's going to be coming off of the machine. I haven't looked at it too much yet. What kind of format is that file in?
So Process sets is the software that's free. You can download it from the Iris site or just type in process, and then you'll very quickly see that you can actually dump it into UBC. But I'll dump it into the UBC format. I don't think the UBC format has topography in it though, right? So you have to bring the topography in separately.
Correct.
And there is a topography change in it.
But how do you export the topography from the process?
So right now the topography can be easily pulled out of the DAT file. It's the last, let's say, I think there was 100 and some odd electrodes in it. So it's the last 100 lines in the text file.
So Max, topography is exactly located at the electrode location. Am I right?
Yeah. So I think it'll be electrode number probably. It may be electrode position and an elevation. And basically, the line is considered to be straight.
Right. This is something that we probably need to check because I'm not sure if you're exporting to UBC format. I'm not 100% sure what's going to happen, whether that's going to assume just like everything is on the surface or export that elevation value and assign to output to a UBC format. As long as it outputs to UBC format, we're good to go. But if not, then we need some way to extract that.
Yeah, I thought we had dumped it before once when we were talking about this and didn't see the topography in it, but I will do it as we're talking here, so I can tell you.
Right. One thing that might be useful here is actually if we could just document some of these questions as we go along in a discourse post, because invariably these questions will come up with so we just have it documented somewhere. It would be.
Yeah, what might be ideal, Max, if you can actually upload that file that we can open through process, then we can actually start from there, figure out what export methodology could be the best, and just streamline such that we can open in the notebooks.
Yeah, so that's there. That's the .bin file in the. I thought I CC'd you on that message too, Sagi, but.
Yeah, you did.
Okay, so I described the files that are on there in that.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, so Joe, I can help. About
Yeah,
that.
that'd be helpful. I'm just kind of curious if what kind of format that bin file is even in, and if we could directly read that.
The bin file can't be read. It's proprietary, but the DAT file can be read. That has all the information in it.
Okay. It might just be easier to work with that if that's what's coming directly off the machine or something similar to that.
Well, we'll figure that out later.
Yeah.
Is it easiest that you just export it to UBC format from here?
I'm doing that right now.
Right, that's
just to see. Yeah.
So I wanted to provide just a couple of quick updates on sort of discourse and also just tracking a few things for the GWB project, and then we can also just go back if there's any other longer discussion items, but I just wanted to make sure we got to these two. So we have the discourse groups set up, and there's a few people who have been posting on there already, which is great. I asked a couple of people who have sent us emails with a bunch of questions if they wouldn't mind reposting them there. And so what we found out is that for brand new users, they can only post 3 different things. So I've gone in, they can only post 3 different things if they're a brand new user. So I went in and updated everyone who's currently in the group to like a higher level so that people can just be adding more content, especially early on. We want people to be able to add stuff. So take a look if there's things you want to jump in and comment on. Alexander posted some stuff on the ELF, and I saw that John already jumped in. And then there's a woman named Jennifer who has posted some questions, and I'll go in and respond to those because I already, she's basically just reposting stuff from an email. But if you have other comments or ideas around what she's written, feel free to chime in. With that, I also changed the layout of our discourse. I was realizing that it's not trivial, or at least it wasn't trivial to see what was recently posted on the main page. I'll show you just briefly what it looks like. If you go to simpeg.discourse.group, you'll be able to see it. So this is what it looks like now. Before we had squares for each of these topics, but now what we have is basically the categories. So you can still see each of the categories that we have, but then on the right is the latest topics. And so it's easy to sort of see which questions have just been asked and where there's activity versus not. So see if this works for everyone. I think it's the same layout that the Jupyter team uses. So take a look, see if it makes sense. If there's any confusion, feel free to ping on Slack or on here, and we can reconsider the layout. But I thought that was kind of working. Yeah, and then the other thing that I wanted to bring up is this issue that I posted for tracking tracking issues as they come up with the groundwater notebooks. And so here what we've done is I've got started right now that's just sort of a bit of a laundry list of things. I went in this morning and actually fixed the question that we had with the data. So Doug, I don't know if you remember, and Devin, this will be relevant to you. Earlier when we created a data class, you could not set the uncertainty in the instantiation, and now you can. And so that should make that a little easier and hopefully a bit simpler to set up if you want to create the uncertainties and set that by a keyword. It should be a little more transparent now. And I think Joe is going through and making sure that pull request sort of gets upstreamed to the rest of the simulation stuff.
Thanks, Devin.
Yeah, no problem. And then there's a couple other comments. Sagi, there was just one in there with respect to the 1D DC, changing T to thicknesses. If you'd be game to do that, that'd be great. And if you don't have the time, if you could just let us know and somebody else can pick that up, it's not a problem.
Yeah, there was something about that one. Do you mind if I jump in?
Yeah, go for it.
when we do these 1D simulations, we define these layers as being from top down. And so we create this mesh, which technically is ordering the cells in the opposite order that is standard SimPEG definition. And I wonder what, I don't know if that's sort of been thought of or addressed, or if anybody's concerned. If you're doing a 1D problem, it makes complete sense to define thicknesses from top down, but then we define this mesh, and it's not being defined in the same convention. I don't know. Something in my brain just kind of like tweaks it. I don't know if anyone's thought about it or sees any issue with it. If we're all happy, I guess it's fine.
Soggy, do you have a comment there?
Nothing particular. The way the reasoning was how, if you actually write down the equation, that's actually much more natural to
definitely, yeah,
to do that in such a way. So yeah, if you want to like make it really consistent, then we can do that. But I think that's sort of the typical convention if you think about 1D code and Z down and positive.
Soggy, what do you think about actually just removing the mesh from there? Because you don't actually need a mesh. And then we sort of don't actually have necessarily that confusion there, because we are defining layer thicknesses and it just is unrelated to the SimPEG mesh.
Yes, yeah. I forgot that.
Actually, I really like that idea.
I forgot that we don't have to put mesh in the simulation class. So the only reason why I did it, like I thought I need to, but we can remove it.
Okay, I'll add that to this issue. Does anyone have, before I do that, does anyone have concerns with that?
That seems logical to me. That's what I was kind of thinking. But the step should probably be to just remove the mesh because it's kind of almost useless at that point.
Yeah. Okay. So I will add that to this issue because I agree. I think that'll simplify things because it already is a duplication of information. Cool. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to bring up with this that I think is somewhat important and worth trying to get in before we do all the merges for the simulation class. We can see what our timelines are like because we need the simulation. We need all the simulation work in before everyone goes to Myanmar, and so it's a bit of a timing game. But at the same time, I just wanted to bring this up, and we can take a look at it. So with the, I'm just pulling up the notes again. One of the things that I put in the notes, and it's also in that GitHub issue, is serializing and deserializing classes. This is how we want to be able to save SimPEG objects. And so, for example, like one of the things that when I was working with Doug through the groundwater notebooks that you want to be able to do is basically generate some data. And then what we should be able to do is serialize the data object, which has the survey on it. So basically we create a SimPEG data object in some forward simulation, and then we should be able to load that up into a new notebook and run an inversion with that. With the deserialization, that just means we need to be a little careful with how classes are instantiated. And so it just requires a little bit of thought and a little bit of testing. So I put in an example in the notes just of like what that workflow should look like. So as folks are refactoring the simulation or like injecting the simulation into whatever sort of area or whatever physics you're looking at, if you wouldn't mind adding a test for this, that would be much appreciated. If you run into any questions or don't understand what's going on, feel free to post in Slack or on Discourse and we can jump in and try and help out there. So at least for the DC, let's try and get this up and running. If we don't get it across everything, that's okay. We can inject it later on. But at least for the DC, I think it's important that this works so that you can just generate some SimPEG data in one notebook and load it up in another. That'll greatly simplify sort of like the idea of doing like teaching inversions. So, and there's a note about that also in that issue. But there's an example of how to do that with the SimPEG mesh class, or at least how to do the testing with discretize in there. Cool. So those were the biggest things I wanted to bring up. Are there any other things that people would like to circle back to, questions, priorities?
Lindsay, Max here. I'll circle back. So exporting from process to UBC format does create a UBC topo file. So you get two files when you export. One's the data and one's the topography, okay? That's one, which I'll put those up there too. I'll put the UBC dump file and a data file and the topo file onto those directories that I had there. The second thing, and I know we talked about this before, and I'm not 100% clear on what is the front-end processing that's available with the whole SimPEG package. And is it, I'm assuming that it may be that using process is the easier way to go, right? For the data set, to make sure you have a good data set that's going into, initially, into the modeling programs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we decided, okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like work going into setting up processing. John's done a lot of nice work there. But at this point in time, we don't have a ton of examples and things like that. So if you've got process from Iris, and that's like
and then removing questionable data after that is basically how you do it based on what the uncertainty is on the different points, data points that you have.
Yeah, you can either set large uncertainties, or you could go in and just remove that data point if you wanted to, just by adjusting the array.
Yeah, and just again, I'll put it up there, but I just took a quick look. There was 7% of the data was removed from one data set, and 9% was removed from the other data set using process.
Okay.
To get rid of bad data, so that's it.
Perfect. Thanks, Max. Doug and Ren, is there anything more that you need in terms of the notebooks, or I know things are in motion, but are there other needs that you both have?
No, I think at this point we're kind of okay. Getting together with Joe tomorrow, when the snow clears up and we all get into UBC, and kind of step through the notebooks that Joe has cleaned up. And then the 2D, I'm not sure whether you've had a chance to test drive the 2D codes, Joe. Have you done that?
Not just outside of testing a few of the, just double checking that those discretizations and checked out with the 1D codes as well. They all matched. Played around with, I made sure that was happening, but other than that, I haven't test driven them too much.
Okay.
I was thinking perhaps, I mean, I haven't seen the most recent iterations of these notebooks, but being able to forward model Schlumberger and Wenner arrays, I think Max and I would find that useful. I don't know if,
everything is set up to the way it is right now. We're simulating the Schlumberger array. We could add something pretty easily if you wanted to do a Wenner array. Right now.
In 1D or 2D?
In everything, just because the data sets that we were provided were Schlumberger, and everything was, they gave us the AB/2 and MN/2 values, and then the data values. And so I just did everything kind of based on that, assuming that was the survey configuration they wanted to use.
Okay. So is that for inversion or forward modeling?
It's for everything. It's all done.
Okay, great. Yeah.
So yeah, 1D
simulation does the Schlumberger.
Oh, okay. That should be fine then. Yeah.
Cool. It's such a way that it generalizes to both of them, the 1D code.
Sorry, Joe, what'd you say?
It looked, so from what I see, the code would generalize to either the Schlumberger or Wenner array.
Yeah, if you wanted to do, yeah. It would be, I mean, I guess if you, technically, if you gave it a data file such that the AB over 2 and MN over 2 dimensions were in a Wenner array, it would go and invert that and it would just be a Wenner array. So you could put in AB over 2 and MN over 2 values that follow the Wenner convention.
Okay.
Just for reference, especially for Colton and Andrea, I put the link for the notebooks that we're talking about in both the chat and then next to Joe's name in the notes. So if you want to take a look and see the groundwater notebooks that we're playing around with, they're just in that research repo there.
Awesome. Thanks for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Cool. Any other questions, thoughts, ideas, things you want to chat about?
Just maybe something quick.
Sure.
I mentioned that during the release of the 0.13 on Slack, but there was like many messages, so it went unnoticed. But basically, so I released the tag, what was tagged as 0.13, but we had at least 2 or 3 PR on the master branch since. So I was wondering, like, how close is the simulation class to be merged on master? Is it worth waiting for it, or should we do actually like an intermediate release for those 2 or 3 pairs? Like, there was something about the matplotlib dependency, but there was also like a fix for the drape topo.
Let's get those in separately and just do minor or like patch releases with them.
Okay.
Because yeah, right now the simulation is going to be a big enough change that those are worth bringing in.
Okay, so what I can do that, yeah, today or tomorrow to do like a 13.1 or something.
That would be great. Thanks, Thibault. Perfect. Okay. Well, I think
I had a question. I had another thing that I'd just like to ask about. I put it up like I started up a dev channel on SimPEG. If people are interested in like just chatting about specific development parts of SimPEG, one of the things I was brought up on there is that, so we're moving away from referring to things as problems and now they're simulations, correct?
Correct.
So a lot of the things that are inside it are still referred to as problems, even though they inherit from the simulation class. I feel like we should be consistent and just, like personally, I feel like we should be consistent, just like all things that were problems are now simulations. So just a thought.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Joe. I think what would be nice to do is to still make that, at least for the first release, a backwards compatible change.
Mm-hmm.
So have both exist, but when you instantiate a problem, have it throw like a future warning at you to say that we will be removing that later. But yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. And if you want to start doing that wherever in the code base, I think that's totally reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
I can grab it in the EC and the IP if you want. I can add that in there.
That would be great.
I think it's already been done a little bit on like on the DC simulations. I see them referred to as simulations and not necessarily problems, but
but it's still problem nodal, problem CC. Still.
Yeah, things like that, because it's like they all inherit the simulation class anyway, so not necessarily problems, they're simulations.
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. Cool. Perfect. Okay, well, if there's no other comments, then we'll see you all next week. And other than that, we'll be on Slack and Discourse and around. Thanks everyone for coming.
Thanks, Lance. Bye, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Doug,
Yeah.
I guess could we continue the video chat and chat for maybe 5 minutes to make sure I'm on top of all the stuff